Hi, this is Maggie from Design Code Debug Repeat. If you're a beginning programmer, a beginning game programmer, a programming teacher, or if you just find this content interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be posting lessons, tips, and cool programming stuff regularly. So last week I wrote this engine for a Wordle game, and this is basically a sort of a poor man's text Wordle game using sets. And what I want to do this week with the help of pygame is create a graphical user interface for this game. Alright, so I've gotten a little tired of testing this, so I'm going to show you how I'm testing it, and maybe you can devise a set of tests that will break it. So I did put in just a few more comments just to make the code a little more clear. And this is not returning a string. I put tuple because that's what Python does. It packs all of the return values into a tuple and then it unpacks them. So I just put tuple as the return type. I don't know technically what you're supposed to do there. And it's returning a list at this point, but it doesn't really matter. This is just our sort of behind the scenes code that we're going to use to make a graphical user interface. So what I'm doing to test is just coming up with a winning word set, and I could do this as a string and then pass it off to the word to order pairs function, but I decided not to bother with that. And then I came up with guest strings, and all I'm testing is the result function because that's really the only interesting function here. It's the only one we're going to port over, I think. Well, I guess maybe I should test the word to ordered pairs, but that's pretty straightforward. Those two I guess will port over. And so I test, one where all the letters are correct and all but one correct in all different positions, and then all the letters are correct but in the wrong order, multiples of the same letter but in the wrong order, and multiples of the same letter but not in the word. And at this point, as I said, I'm getting tired of writing out test cases because I really just want to write the program, and well, if it doesn't work, maybe you'll find the error, or maybe I'll find it when I actually play with it. The other code that I haven't written at all is the code that will get the words from the file. And I remembered something that you might want to put in the program, which is checking when the user types a word to make sure that it actually is a word. And my understanding of the way Wordle works is it's got two word lists, one that it draws the words from that are the actual puzzle, and words that it will allow for guesses. So there's a much larger set of words that you can guess that are actual words, but that Wordle will never choose for the puzzle. And I'm not sure what set I have, but I feel like it should be up to the user to type in a correct word. So I'm not going to bother with that. With the large set of words, I don't know how realistic this idea is, but I think if you read them in to a list and then turned that list into a set and then checked for membership in the set, because sets are hashed, that would be a very quick check to make sure that the word that the user typed is actually a real word, if we're using that list as a word list. Like, for example, FAFSA is not a word. I was just trying to come up with sets of letters that matched my testing condition, and I was just working fairly quickly, and then I got bored. So we're going to move on and do the graphical user interface part of this. I haven't really sketched out what I want the graphical user interface to look like, but basically I want it to look like a regular Wordle game. So there would be 5 boxes for the guess. As far as the user interacting with those boxes, I would want the user to be able to type letters and press backspace, and then a press of enter would actually enter the word. And of course, with each letter that the user types, the letter should appear in the appropriate space in the boxes. Now, what I would really like to be able to do is to be able to type the words or the letters in any order. So what I would like it to work that way, but I would also like to be able to press the arrow keys to move between the boxes so I could type things in out of order. I would like that. So that's the interface I would like. I might build just the regular interface first and see how that goes. And then of course when the user presses enter, then the boxes turn a color. So I think we should probably just work on that part first, having the 5 boxes, having it respond to the typing events, and having then when the user presses enter, running this code to find out which are the correct guesses and which get the yellow color, which are correct letters but in the wrong place, and then changing them. So I'm gonna grab like a template for a pygame program where I've got some event handling code in there and just a basic event loop, so we have a place to start. So this is a template that goes along with, I want to say chapter, I don't know, 10 of my Objects in Games book. So when I'm teaching this chapter and I have the students do a lab, I have them create a template. So I put sort of a generic sprite in here. I guess we could use sprites for the little boxes that the letters are going to go in. I don't know if that's, you know, just a lot, but let's say that we do decide to do that. Then let's see, we're making a window. What does this do by itself? Let's see. Okay, so I think this is the generic sprite, and I think ultimately I'm going to want this to be bigger because well, I haven't quite decided yet, but what I'm thinking is maybe the regular game just works as we're used to, but maybe over on the right, the current guess is, and then maybe it'll move over to the left when you're done with it. And the current guess, here's how I want it to work. The current guess only allows you to put letters in that work for that particular square, and it will include the letters already that we already know, because I like to play the game on hard mode, if you're familiar with the game. So I like to use all of the information that I have in every guess. To me, that makes it more fun and more challenging. So that's what I want, but I want a little technical assistance with that in the actual game. So maybe I want to make this a little bit wider. So maybe we'll do like a 640 by 480, and that gray is not very nice. Okay, so let's see. I've got just size here for making the window. Better. Okay, so let's see. We are going to make, so we probably, I'm going to do this bit at a time. So I am thinking I'm probably going to want some sort of function that draws the guess once they've guessed it. But let's just get the event handling code in here. So let's just get a sprite defined where it draws a letter in itself. So the generic sprite is going to be letterbox. Okay, and letterbox is going to have a letter which is a string, and initially they don't have any letters in them. So, and initially they will draw as white. So I guess we can create the images and pass them in for now, and we'll say self dot letter equals the empty string. And we're going to want to draw no, we don't need the screen for that. And to draw, we're going to render the letter and put it in the box. So we'll just need to know our own size. So we're going to need a location. And I guess that could be the top left. Is that top left? I'm going to have to look at my rectangles to see if that's correct. Yes, that's correct. But I did forget, you don't write a draw. We're just going to update. But what I do need to do is have like a set letter. So here is where we'll draw. So self dot letter equals letter, and now we're going to have to render this. We're going to have to do some font stuff. So we're going to have to create a surface of the letter rendered in a font, and then blit that to our image. So we're going to have to decide on a size and a font and all that stuff. And then it's not really going to do anything in update because it's just going to sit there. What we'll do is when we're handling events, and so when we process the enter key, we'll go through and look at the user's guess, and then we'll change the appropriate letter boxes accordingly by telling them to change their background. So I think what I would want to do is maybe have some class level fields, which are the background colors for a correct position letter and an incorrect position letter, and a letter that's not in the word at all. So those are the green, the yellow, and the gray in the traditional Wordle game. So we'll probably just stick with similar colors to that. So so I'm going to write a series, or maybe I'll just write one where we pass one thing in, but something like set status or something, which is where we're going to pass something in, which will let it know what color it is. And then we're just going to have to do that rendering code over, where we're going to blit the color into the background, and then we'll blit the letter over. So maybe I'm going to want some sort of private helper function, which can be called by both of these, set status and set letter, which will just draw the letter onto the background. So I'm actually going to pause the video and write that code, so you don't have to watch me write a lot of code, which I think is kind of boring. I've already thought it through and described it, but now let me just get it in there so we have a working sprite. Okay, so I've chosen some pretty awful colors here, but considering I just sort of picked them to be randomly somewhat green, gray, and yellow, I think they're okay. I think the gray is okay, and we're not really centered, and I don't love the letters, but let's look at least we've got letterbox working here. So just to briefly go over this, I wanted some class level fields, so I wanted some stuff that would be shared among all the boxes, because there's no reason to redefine like the font, for example. And I wanted to have some statuses that could be used from outside. So we've got neutral, right, wrong, and not there. So neutral is that original before we've got a status for everything. This is just testing code to make sure the boxes are drawing. Right is you've got the right letter in the right place. That's the green. We'll need to brighten that up. Wrong is I probably need to come up with better names. Wrong is actually the gray, and not there is the yellow. So it's the right letter, but it's not in that position. But let's call that right not there, and we'll just find all the not there's and replace that. And then for the font, I just wanted to use a sans serif, just like in the real game, but I think that could be a little bolder, maybe. But anyway, I just picked Helvetica 48. And then these are the colors. So I just defined some colors that, again, we can improve those. That's not important. For each individual box, it'll have a letter, and then inside is just the surface. Actually, we probably only need one of those because I'm reusing it, but it's just the surface inside the border. And then to initialize, it's given a size and a location. So basically just create the surface and blit the black, and then blit the neutral color, which is this white, on the inside, and set it to neutral status and no letter. And then these are the methods that, well, draw letter is just a helper method to draw the letter, but these two are the methods that will be used from outside to set the letter when the user types a letter, and to set the status once the user presses enter and we determine the status of each box. So setting the letter just basically sets the letter and draws it, because as the user types, they're going to want to see the letter that they've typed. And setting the status is when we've established the status, we'll draw the appropriate color and then redraw the letter on top. So to use all of that, down here I just created a group, and I have a lot of magic numbers here. You'll see up here I picked 3 as the size of the border. We might change that. My idea is just to get something up and working and then go in and clean up stuff like that, because as soon as I clean that up, it'll become easier to make changes. So if we don't like 3, we'll only have to find it in one place and make a wider border, I think. And where this is in the screen, I just wanted to get it up there, so I just put it at 100, 100. And then obviously we're going to make 5 each time, so I just went ahead and made 5, so instantiated 5 of the sprite objects, incremented, where they're going each time. And I also put them into a list called guessy letters, so that I could get at each one individually and change it just to test. So I'm using, the different statuses. I want to change that up here. Right, wrong. Oh, and it's else for not their color, so I don't need to change anything there. And get them drawn. So now that we have something that we can test, now we can start responding to user input and putting letters in, and then when the user presses enter, if we've got 5 whole letters, we're going to count on the user to make sure that's a word for now. Once we've got the 5 whole letters, then we can use our other code to check and set a status for each of the boxes. So that's going to be the next step in working on this, but right now I have to do some real work, kind of get paid for. So I'll come back and play with this at some point in the future. Okay, so I had to step away from my computer, and I'm just going to review what we've got. Alright, so we're at this point, and what we want is to process some text input so that we can actually put letters into the boxes as the user types. So for some reason I still have this called template, but let's see. So this is my template. All right, now in the newer versions of Pygame, I think key down and key up have a lot of the same components in the dictionary. But in the slightly older version I'm running, key down has more information than key up. So I'm going to use key down, and I don't think it really makes a difference. It's not like the mouse where it could actually move as the user is pressing. So between a mouse button down and a mouse button up, they might move the mouse. So if you're processing a click, you might want to look at mouse button up, or you might want to look at both. But for me, for the key, they can't move the key. So I think once you've pressed key down, that's it, you're locked in. So we'll do key down, and we really don't need anything else. And so here we get to what I don't like about Wordle, and that is that I have to type the letters in order. So I think what I'd like to do is have a sort of active box, and the active box will start at the left, and if the user types a valid letter, then that box will take the letter, and the next box will become the active box. So it'll work like Wordle, and I guess backspace is how we delete a letter. So I guess backspace is going to have to work the same way, where we go back, the active box becomes the box to the left, unless we're at the leftmost box. But I'd also like to process the arrow keys so that I can switch what the active box is myself. So I want to process the letters and the backspace, the arrow keys, and the enter. Alright, so I've gone and grabbed this. It's an example of a lab from one of my classes, and so this is what we're going to do. If there's a key down, we're going to look in the dictionary at the key, and then we're going to compare that to different of these constants that are in pygame. So let's go take a look at the constants, and then the other thing that we're going to need to do is have an active box. And I can't remember, like, I think I have access to the group as a list. We are going to want to add to the group, but the guessy letters, and this is really the current, we'll call it the current letters. This is the letters that we're currently typing into. So we're going to make, we'll have I guess we'll call it the active letter index is an integer, and we'll set that to 0. So that's our active letter index. So typing is going to move that. Let me just note that down. Active letter index. Typing will move it in different ways depending on what we type, and we'll use that to index into the list of letters to tell the letter if it's getting a letter, the letter box rather, if it's getting a letter, what letter it's getting. So I'm just going to go pull up some pygame documentation so we can see what all of the constants are for the different keys. Okay, and here they are, and I guess I'm going to hope that these are contiguous, that I'll be able to say if it's greater than or equal to k underscore a and less than or equal to k underscore z. So let's start with just that. So if the key is greater than or equal to pygame dot k underscore a, got that right? Yep. And if it's less than or equal to z, then let's just do the first box and see if we can get that working. So we've got current letters. Sub active letter index is assigned, and then we want to give it the letter associated with the constant, or I think we can just get that there's a Unicode component to that event dictionary. So I think we can do edict and Unicode. Well, I mean, we mess ourselves up here, but I can increment the active letter index too. That's not boundary checking, so that we can go way beyond. But let's just see if we can type letters now. Okay, let's see. A, B, C, D. Okay, good. So they are not capitals, but I am able to put letters in. Let's start. And what happens, I don't want to have my list index out of range. What happens if I press other keys then? So arrows, looks like I can press those to my heart's delight, space, numbers, and typing all kinds of stuff. Now I'm doing letters. Okay. Hey, there we go. Let's start. Okay, so what else do we want to process? Well, we want to, let's see, we're going to want to manage that active letter index. So what happens if we get to the last one? I guess we just keep it on the last one. Like you're just going to keep typing there if you don't do something to indicate you want to be somewhere else. So let's say if active letter index is less than len, what are they called, current letters, then active letter index plus equals 1. So that should keep us so that when I'm typing, oops, nope, what did I'm still doing it? How did I still? Oh, okay, so if it's less than the length, then so we're still able to get up to the length. So we don't want to get up to the length. That was a rookie mistake. Okay. Okay, so we don't seem to be clearing very well here, and that's probably clear screen background. I'm not blitting directly to the background, am I? So we definitely want to get that fixed up. Background's just a white thing. Okay. And when we set the letter, self.letter equals letter. Oh, self.draw letter. Okay, so let's sort of clear ourselves first here. So we probably just maybe we want just a little bit more than draw letter. Well, let's have draw box. Good. Okay, so now let's do the arrow keys, right? And then we can move back and forth. Now basically we have to, that's right, we have to handle enter and getting us to a new row. And what I'm thinking is maybe I'll have, sorry to scroll so much, maybe I'll have the box sort of clone itself and just move itself down and lose the letter and the status, like reset its status, but clone itself for the horizontal location, the X location. But the reason I'm thinking that is because I'm thinking that the letterbox might have associated with it allowed and disallowed letters, and so when it clones, it will bring those letters along with it, because I am thinking that it would be fun if it constrained a little bit more what we could actually type, or gave hints about what we could actually put in each box. So that's why I'm thinking that I might clone them so they could bring that information along with them. So here we want to do an elif, and then we want to compare for the arrow keys. Okay, we're just going to do left and right, which are, I think they're like key left and key right. Yeah, key left and key right. So if it's equal to, what is it? It's all upper keys. Okay, then if we're not already all the way to the left, so if active letter index is not equal to 0, active letter index minus equals 1, and elif, and we'll do right, and we need some way to show which box is active, I guess. And so for this one, I should have copied everything. Let's not make the same dumb mistake before. If it's less than len current letters minus 1, then active letter index plus equals 1. And let's do backspace 2 so that we can actually erase if we want to. So it's probably k backspace or something, but let's see if we can find it in here. K delete. I think we want to handle backspace, not delete. Look at that, it's the first one. K backspace. And that is just going to set the letter. So set letter. And we're just going to set the letter to the empty, like the empty letter, like that. Okay, so let's try out our new keys here. Okay, so can I press? Let's crash it first. Can I press left? No, I can't. Okay, what if I press right and then type A? Oh, what happened? Nope, it's not working. Okay, why not? It's not working. Pygame active letters, my active letter index minus equals 1, and then I come. Okay, what's going on? Okay, processing it. Okay, it's in there, so active letter index, why is that working? Minus equals 1, if I do, oops, that should be k right. Well, that's why that one didn't work. Did I try to go left after? Okay, now backspace, cool, okay. I don't know where I am. Good. I mean, that's basically the big change I wanted. Pretty darn simple. For all I know, Wordle actually does that. I have never tried. I don't think it does, because I think I've tried clicking in the boxes to move to different boxes. Okay, so let's see. What do we? I think we want to handle the enter, right? So I think our next step is to process the enter by hooking up to our other code. And our other code, I think, do I have it floating around here somewhere? I think we can actually simplify this quite a bit, because really all we need is a list of these statuses so we know what status to set the boxes to. So I just need a list of right, wrong, or not there. I don't need a list of letters. So we'll change that to return right, wrong, or not there. And the other thing I think I want to do is get the letter from the boxes, because I need to turn it into a word. So let's do get letter. And I don't want to, yeah, of course I could keep a string back in the main. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it a little bit more, the pieces a little more independent. So, oops. So we're going to do it this way. Oopsie. So we're going to have to assemble them and make sure that we actually have a complete word. So return self.letter, I assume it's called. It says it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's process and enter. Let's just start elif, and we'll start by processing and enter by just assembling that word, and we can just display it as the caption or something. So is it k enter? We got k return. I think it's k return. It's k return. And maybe I should really look into that. Maybe there are different keys on different keyboards for different operating systems. I think for me it's going to be k return. Okay, so I'm just going to say like word string equals the empty string, and then for current letters, for a letter in current letters, word we can append to strings this way, plus equals letter, get letter, and then how do we set the caption? Caption's up here somewhere. Pygame is, so we say caption. I'll put the word in the caption. Word. But let's only do that if then word is equal to the number of letters. Let's see, length word is equal to the length of current letters. Otherwise, they haven't typed a whole word in. Okay, so let's see if we can get a word that way. So if I do A, B, C, D, E, and enter, then that's my word. Okay, and then, but if I do, I can't do space, backspace, B, C, D, E. Oh, it didn't change the caption, so F does change the caption. Okay, so good. So we've got our word, and then we have that whole mechanism that I haven't written of getting a word from the file, and maybe we want to put that along with our comparison code into its own class. So yeah, I think I'm gonna step away from this for now because I have work to do. So this was just a little break. And when I come back, I think I will write a class which is responsible for sort of managing the aspects of the game related to comparing the words, getting the word, just the whole right or wrong thing. And we'll incorporate that old code in there. And then we'll be able to change the status of the letter boxes. And then at that point, we really just need to put the whole thing in a loop, and that loop will be similar to the loop from the old code, the text code. And like I said, maybe clone the letter boxes, but I'd say we're really close to being done here. So unfortunately I had a little audio accident here, but the advantage to that is I can record a voiceover and sort of speed through the code, so you don't have to watch me type all of the code in real time. So what I decided to do was add this Game Master class to the game, and the Game Master is in charge of handling the game aspects of the game, so the sort of behind the scenes checking the word, getting the word from the file. And I'll upload 2 versions of this program. I'm going to keep working on it a little bit. Like, I've already written it to read the file in and grab a word from the file. So I'll upload a version that has a little bit more robust Game Master. But basically the Game Master right now is going to be an adaptation of the code that we wrote, which was the code that would check our guess. To start, I'm just hard coding in a word that we'll use just to test the program. So down in the main program, we're going to check when the user presses return that the word, first of all, is a valid word. If we want to write that right now, I have the Game Master just returning true, so I'm not checking what the user types against the list of words. Then we'll get the status of the word, and to start we'll just print that status, which is going to be just a series of those integer codes. Then once we've got that checked, making sure that that's working correctly, that we're getting the correct status, then what we can do is iterate through those statuses, and that's basically a parallel list with our letterbox list, so we can iterate through and send the set status message to each box in the list of letterboxes, and then they'll draw themselves accordingly. So after working through a bunch of careless errors that just resulted from me not porting the code over very cleanly, we can now iterate through those 2 parallel lists and set the status of the actual boxes. Now once that's done, what we need to do is set the game up so that it gives us the 6 guesses. So for each row, we're going to clone the boxes, and I gave up on the clone idea for now, and all I'm doing is just creating a new set of boxes that are below the old set, and those new boxes are going into the list of current letters. The old boxes will stay in the group, which gets the clear update draw messages. So they're all still going to be drawing on the screen, but the new ones are the only ones that you're going to be able to move between and type into. And when you press enter, those are the ones that we'll get the letters from to check. Now it's mostly working. Just a little sort of off by 1 error here where it draws a new set of boxes even though they're not active and we can't do anything with them. So we just need to get it not to draw those boxes once we've reached our 6th guess. And other than that, I have a pretty good program here according to what I set out to do. So it basically works like Wordle, but I can use the arrow keys to move around within the word as I enter it, and I can leave spaces blank, which just helps me when I'm trying to guess the word to better visualize what words are possible. I thought I'd give you just a quick tour of, I think, the final version of this game, meaning I'm done playing with it. So in the Game Master, I do open up, I mentioned this earlier, the file, and read in the words. And I think I am going to look for some new words on the internet though, because this is today's game, and it was play with letters until I find the crazy beginning letter of this word. I really don't think crunk is a word, but anyway, my word list does. So just a quick overview of the code. The game master maintains a set of words, so it reads them in as a list and then uses the number of days since January 1st, 22 as the index into the list, and stores the rest as a set so that we can do the is valid word comparison. Because they were read from a file and not stripped, we just add a new line to whatever word is passed in to check to see if that string is contained in self.words. And then I think the rest of this is pretty straightforward that we've already seen. For letterbox, I simplified this because I wanted to be able to index into the list of colors and the list of surfaces using these constants, because I use them not only in letterbox, but I use them a little bit in the new class, which is those letters at the bottom. And those are unfortunately not in a QWERTY order, but I've got individual, they're just surfaces really, but they're objects that they maintain a status, which are for the individual letters, and then I've got a sprite, which is the hints, and it's just a list basically of these different letters. And my idea is I really would like those to be related to the individual guess letters. So instead of having one set at the bottom for the entire puzzle, have one set for each of the letters, and that it could still be drawn at the bottom, but it just changes as you select different letters to show what's possible for that letter. An example of that, oops, I keep pressing my enter and not my return, I have to grab that too. Let's see, well, if you went to this particular letter, I would like to see the hint over here, or have the hint down here change, maybe when we move from letter to letter, and R would be grayed out because R doesn't belong there. That's one thing we know. So here, all of the letters that we see, A, E, S, T, and R, would be grayed out, but R would be yellow for these because we don't yet know where R goes. So so now that we've found R, same thing, U would be grayed out here, but we would be able to see U's for these. So that's the keyboard hints, is the sprite which has all of the letters in it. And so then it's really just a matter of making that keyboard sprite and adding it to group, which was the name of the group from the original template file, and I just never bothered to change it. And then down here to talk to the keyboard hints, and just when we're iterating through the letters, let it go through its list of letters and set, based on the string, based on the character, set the appropriate status. This is basically one of the versions that I'll upload, and please feel free to grab it and make your own modifications to either version. The earlier version might be easier to work with, that's why I'm uploading it, because it's got less in it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you like this sort of content, please subscribe to the channel. Take care.